Happening now on Grid Tonight. MotoGP is dealing with a lot of issues related to visas and the track itself ahead of this weekend's Indian Grand Prix. Is MotoGP risking total humiliation by everything going wrong, and will there even be a race this weekend? Trackhouse Racing signed Zane Smith and Shane van Gisbergen to contracts in 2024. Will Trackhouse be one of the most fascinating teams to follow next year? INDY NXT driver Kyffin Simpson has been promoted to IndyCar full-time in 2024. Is he been rushed up too soon? And does he potentially need another year in INDY NXT competition? Hello to all of viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium and Finish. With me, welcome back Joshua Birch and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to comment in the chat below, ask questions, and consider supporting us through the new Super Chat feature. Now, Josh, take it away with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. Hello, Matt. Hello, Kobe. Welcome. Pleased to be back. And first of all, I want to say thank you to the entire Grid team for allowing me to take some time off. It's been a very crazy couple of weeks. All sorted now, all better. And I'm very happy to be back with my family here at the team. I'm getting ready to get going. As the expression goes, new caravan, new kidney. Okay, so kicking off with one of the biggest stories of the year for MotoGP, that's just going to keep on brewing because MotoGP's commercial rights holders, Dorna, along with Fair Street Sports, are in hot water this week ahead of the first ever motorcycle Grand Prix of India held at the former F1 Bud International Circuit. Now, this story starts back in July when Dorna advised all travelling personnel who work in MotoGP's race weekend to apply for their visa to work in India directly via First Street Sports and the state government of Uttar Pradesh, who are the event organisers. Now, late on Monday evening, European time, it became apparent that many teams, riders, journalists and officials were having to miss flights due to not being granted a visa to enter the country. This affects all classes of MotoGP, Moto2 and Moto3. Now, I have spoken with two paddock accredited representatives who have covered this story in depth. Simon Patterson of the race and his wife, Maddie Patterson, a freelance marketing consultant, both worked hard to inform us of all the dramas unfolding. At this stage, Simon is now in India trackside, but even there, trouble is following with issues at border control and accommodation that had been booked mysteriously vanishing from systems. This is happening to a lot of the paddock. Still, with less than 48 hours to go before practice is due to start, several MotoGP riders are yet to arrive in India, along with many affected in the intermediate and junior classes of Moto2 and 3. MotoGP riders who are actually now in India are Vinales, Aleix Espargaro, Oliveira, Fernandez, Bagnaia, Marini, Bezzecchi, Pol Espargaro, Martin, Zarco, Quartararo, Morbidelli, Miller, Nakagami, Bradle, Di Giannantonio, Alex Marquez, and Augusto Fernandez. 7 of those riders arrived before today, the rest all today. Flying in as we speak is Marc Marquez, Johan Mir, and Brad Binder. It is unknown at this time about Moto 2 and 3 personnel, and the photo you're looking at taken there by Sonny Sorrell. The event organisers released this statement on Tuesday morning saying, "We have been updated about the current issues of delays in the visa issue process. We would like to share that we have been working relentlessly to resolve the same in the best possible manner. Close to 500 visas have been cleared and a large number will be done shortly. The dedicated teams are doing everything possible to ensure rider, team, technical official visas are issued at the earliest. This incident was unexpected and we are doing whatever is required to address the same immediately. Now, we understand the importance of a seamless experience for all those participating and attendants and encourage everyone to be patient and cooperate with us and the teams. We are immensely grateful to the Indian government, the MEA, the MHA, and the UP government for their continued support and coordination. We are confident that all pending visas will be processed and all race personnel required for the race will reach India in timely and safely manner." Matt, with all this visa drama, do you see Friday being cancelled to focus on allowing the teams and riders to fully prepare for a race weekend, which included a sprint and feature race?
First of all, good evening, everybody, or wherever you are watching us around the world, and welcome back to you, Josh. What an absolute week it's been. What a farce this has turned into. From all of the visa issues, transportation problems, the track, which we're going to get to in a minute, some snakes in the area, which are proving a problem as well. It's not gone well, has it? We'll have to wait and see. It is Thursday morning now in India as we are live. So good morning to anyone watching in the Indian continent. So we're going to get some news later on today or tomorrow, wherever we are around the world, about what's going to happen throughout the weekend. If people can't get there, if we're going to have people missing some of the practice sessions, potentially because they've been delayed on their way in, that's going to cause a problem. There was a thought earlier in the week that if we're going to have a chunk of riders missing from one or more classes, this could turn into some sort of non-championship, non-points exhibition weekend. That looks like unlikely now that's going to happen, but will anything happen? Because now we've got the chunk of people there. Obviously, the TV people are there. The MotoGP sort of head office as such has been there since last weekend. Of course, there was no race last week, so they've had a little bit more time to get there. Sure, all their visas were well and truly sorted out well in time. But they've been to the track and inspected, and they're happy that everything is a go. And the button seems to have been pushed for Friday, but this is a long running thing in a pretty tumultuous year for Dorna. We've criticised them quite rightly, I feel like, on this show throughout the season, through stewarding issues, through TV direction, and with the Bangaya thing a couple of weeks ago at Catalonia, of course. And now we've got this. It's just the troubling 2023 season for MotoGP continues.
Yeah, I'm blocked again. So, yeah.
Well, that too.
Yeah, I'm really not happy with Dorna, and many people aren't happy with Dorna. But as you say, sadly, the visa jam is not the only issue facing the Indian Grand Prix this weekend. The riders are not happy about the state of the track, as new tarmac has never been laid at this circuit since 2011, when the circuit opened, and no work at all has been done since the last F1 race in 2013. That image you're looking at now on the screen, if you look to the dead center of the track where the new layout is, as well in terms of the grid hatchings, you can still see Sebastian Vettel's donuts from 2013. They are the same donuts. I have had that confirmed to me as well. Now, MotoGP and the FIM request that all the tracks are in line with the modern safety standard. The Indian Grand Prix circuit holds a lot of asphalt runoffs that need to be replaced with gravel for MotoGP. This has not been completed. Riders have been voicing concerns about the track for a few weeks and are due to have a meeting on Thursday, that's today, of course, in India, to talk about if it's safe to ride and race. Now, former rider and current safety advisor to Dorna, Loris Capirossi, rode the track, I must state, not on a racing bike, but a BMW road motorcycle that is used for media laps, had this to say about the condition of the track. Pleased with the layout of the track, and also that everything seems to be going smoothly, and I'm really pleased with the layout of the track. Basically, thumbs up. He's given it the okay. But the possibility is that Friday's running will be completed, and if there are any issues, the riders will talk again with the topic to cancel the race on safety grounds. So, to sum up, ahead of a race that was supposed to be on the calendar and starting in 2024, but made a surprise appearance on the 2023 calendar, the track is not ready and is yet to be FIM homologated and signed off for racing. The paddock has yet to fully arrive due to visa issues. The riders, if they do arrive, may yet to decide not to race on safety grounds. And also, as you mentioned earlier on, there are apparently snakes around the area and that was from Simon Patterson we got told that about, and he was told by the MotoGP medical director. So there is a load of issues here at this circuit as well. Behind the mic, Matthew says, bad season for people such as myself to try and get into MotoGP, I'm afraid. Absolutely. So, Kobe, starting with you. How embarrassing is this, not only for MotoGP, Dorna and the promoters, but for India, who has a massive MotoGP fan base and is the second largest country of bike users on Earth?
Well, looking at this situation as just a casual viewer of MotoGP, I can say that this looks like a totally embarrassing and humiliating situation for MotoGP to be in. Being a professional sports organization, you'd expect more competence and preparation from everyone involved in these situations. And unfortunately, it seems like that they got themselves in big of a mess here. I'm glad that some of the riders have been able to get over there. Hopefully, everyone will be able to get over there before all the festivities and on-track activities start. But there very well could be some more issues throughout the rest of the weekend. Hopefully, this will be the worst of it, and we're on the downside, and it'll start getting better. And we'll be able to have a good race to talk about on the Sunday Grid Live wrap up show. But right now, this is the center of attention. This drama surrounding the visa issues, the track not being properly prepared, and I had no idea they've really done nothing to the track for like an entire decade. The track has literally just sat there, year after year for an entire decade, and here we are ready to go racing again. So for the sake of the sport and for all the Indian MotoGP fans, I really hope that they're able to put all this behind them and put on a great show for this fan base. It would be such a shame, to try to come here to put on a show for these people, and then we end up not having a show, or all of the off the track issues end up causing a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it's just an absolute mess. I'm just trying to think back, and you bringing that picture up of the grid shot there that we had of the circuit. Those Vettel donuts, that's when he got out the car, wasn't it, and bowed to the crowd after. I think he won one of the if it's him or the team won a championship here that year from memory. The track wasn't in a particularly brilliant condition then in terms of smoothness and bumpiness, and we know how the MotoGP guys love a billiard flat racetrack, and it was bumpy then, and that was, as you say, 10 years ago. So and if they've basically done a bit of weeding and swept it basically after 10 years of, I'm sure they've had some domestic racing there, but this is proper full international spec stuff. So we'll see how we get on in practice, which is going to be in about 36 hours time from when we are going out now live. So it's going to be interesting to see. Matthew says snakes are more than enough to get me to stay away. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people will be doing the same. They wouldn't have had this problem at Aragon, would they? Because this is Aragon was the race that replaced, or has been replaced, should I say, by this one at the Bud International. World Superbike are going to be at Aragon this weekend for their penultimate round of the championship. That you mentioned Simon Patterson earlier. I've been following his travails all week, and he and a lot of other freelance media have had flights cancelled, hotels disrupted, as you said. A lot of people going to be out of pocket for this one from the media side and from the team side, I'm sure, as well. This will all come out in the wash over the next couple of weeks, and it's not a good way to start the Asian swing of MotoGP, because we are pretty much based in that part of the world now, apart from the Valencia finale, all the way to the end of the year. Adam, good evening to you. He says, I'd like to see MotoGP have another US Grand Prix, and it's held at Laguna Seca. I kind of feel we'll get a similar problem if we go back to Laguna Seca with MotoGP, because even though they've made a lot of changes to Laguna with the new surface that we saw at IndyCar 2 weeks ago, that circuit needs a lot of safety stuff doing to it, I feel, to get MotoGP back to Laguna. If it's going to go anywhere in the States, it will be COTA. I can't see another American Grand Prix, especially with no American riders in the top class. So we'll see what we get in India over the weekend. Of course, we'll keep you up to date on the Grid Network socials, especially tomorrow if we get any more news, and then obviously through Friday when the riders will have a couple of hours to, I'm guessing there's going to be a mass meeting of all classes, and hopefully we're going to do pick a winner in a little while. Hopefully we'll get to do pick a winner picks. We'll have some racing, and everything will go off with a relative hitch, or without a relative hitch, over the weekend, because there's been many hitches in the way so far.
Very glad you brought up about the billiard smoothness, because there's actually at the back, that very long back straight, there's a horrible bump halfway down into the braking zone as well, like a really horrible bump. And I just know as soon as they go over that, they're going to go, nope, that's it, pack up, go home, because they can't fix that overnight. But yeah, you said about weeds as well. There is actually weeds growing out of the track concrete I've seen. So it's not the best circuit in the world for conditions. It's a very good track. I enjoyed it when it was on the F1 calendar, but the problems surrounding it as well were just so much, of course, with F1 having the tax issues, being taxed twice.
Yes.
They only lasted 3 years, and as you said, there was a problem there in the last year. And MotoGP have tried to come here, and it doesn't seem to have worked. So two-part question for you here, Matt. One, will this race go ahead? And two, will we ever come back to India?
If the race doesn't, let me answer this in a. If the race doesn't go ahead at the weekend, they won't come back.
Yeah,
this has been, if you look at the MotoGP socials on the platform formerly known with the Blue Bird this week, they've kind of been going on as normal. Nothing has been. All the reporting has been from the freelancers. Nothing out of MotoGP at all. They've had their normal ready for the Grand Prix. This is what the track looks like, etc., etc.
This morning they dared to say.
This
morning they dared to say. I want to get this right, so I'm going on here. Booking late for the Indian Grand Prix, find accommodation here. Yeah, looking for a last-minute accommodation deal ahead of the Indian Grand Prix, book it here. That was actually something I was tweeting this morning. Because they just don't know.
The market, as you mentioned, is massive. And if I'm not sure, I've seen prices for tickets for the weekend. If they get them right, people will come. If they build it, they will come. I don't know if you saw, it was one of my knots last week was the fact that you can't take helmets into the racetrack if you come on your bike. Yeah. But it's not been a great start for them. Will it go ahead? I think so. Will there be problems? Yes. Will they come back? We'll have to wait and see.
This is going to be the biggest race of the year, and it's certainly the biggest MotoGP story of the year because it is just comedy of errors. And we've
the second MotoGP track issue of the year, because of course we were going to go to Kazakhstan in the summer.
Yes,
and that got pulled. The new track at Skohal or whatever it's called. Forgive me, I can't exactly remember. We had all the issues through the COVID times about going to Finland at the Kimi Ring. That never happened either. So they've not got a good record really at the moment of MotoGP and Dorna about going to new places for them.
They've also brought up recently that they're going to Hungary in the next 5 years, either at the Hungaro Ring, which is a bizarre decision because that is not a circuit that is designed for motorcycles, and then a new track that's located about 20 minutes away from Budapest as well, and that hasn't been built or homologated yet. So they've got
Superbike no idea. The same thing today, that they'll be going to wherever, so they'll both end up at the same place, I guess.
It's ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous as well. It's the blind leading the blind, and I know we're critical of Dorna, but I've said this all year long. Dorna are heading for a very big problem and a very big issue if they continue down this route, not taking safety right, not taking tracks right. It does feel like they're slightly overworked this year, and I think the reason they're slightly overworked is because they've added a sprint race and there's now double the work. So everyone's and the calendar's getting bigger than ever. It's getting so much for them as well. But we will continue to update you on the weekend. But it has been the main dominating story. I literally said on Monday, I'm back this week, and this is the story we have to lead with. So all looking good. So stay tuned because it's going to be a crazy weekend if the Grand Prix of India goes ahead for MotoGP. Okay, on to our second story. And Trackhouse Racing made 2 announcements since our last show. The most recent one is signing NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series champion Zane Smith to graduate to the Cup Series in 2024. However, Smith will be on loan to Spire Motorsports next year, who expands to a 3-car operation after buying a charter from Live Fast Motorsports. Live Fast Motorsports statement is that confirming they have sold their charter to Spire Motorsports. We will address the media in the coming time for further statements. We thank. I thought that was a H at the end of thank there, doesn't it? That needs a better font. We thank all of our partners, fans, and LFM employees for their following and dedication, and we plan to continue in part-time schedule in 2024 with an open car. Now, according to the Athletic, Spire was able to acquire this charter for around $40 million US. with this charter coming to the team. It also means that Spire and Trackhouse will form an alliance. In 2025, Trackhouse plans to expand to 3 full-time Cup teams. Team co-owner and founder Justin Marks said signing Smith is like having the number 1 overall pick in a draft to take the best young prospect ready for the big leagues. For the last couple of years, Smith has been one of the most talented young Ford development drivers and made several Cup starts this year with Front Row Motorsports to go along with his Truck Series program. Now, Smith returns to Chevrolet as Ford didn't really have a place for him next year in the Cup. Graphic courtesy there of Trackhouse. So, Matt, is the signing of Zane Smith a big win for Trackhouse, and did Ford make a mistake by letting him go, especially to a rival manufacturer?
Absolutely, they did. Zane has been very, very good in the last couple of years in the Truck Series. And this is a big loss for them. We kind of floated around the idea most of the year on the show, off the show, where Zane might land next year. I'm not sure any of us picked this one. We thought he might be going to Stuart Haas. Maybe if whatever happens with a couple of their drivers there, a couple of them on the hot seat, Chase Briscoe comes to mind. Ryan Preece hasn't really done too much this year, but it looks like they might be safe. And it looked like Zane may be heading that way, but he signed with Trackhouse, who, as we know, and we've been talking about for the last couple of years, one of the up-and-coming powerhouses of the Cup Series, and they've got another fast young kid in the team. Okay, he'll be, as you said, running for Spire next year, but the contract is there, and this is a great move for him. This is typical of Justin Marks to grab someone who's on a good run and give him a proper ride. Major miss by Ford, says Matthew Owens, specifically SHR, as I mentioned, who will surely have to fill the 10 car sometime soon, which is the Eric Almirola ride, and has been for some time. It looked feasible that Smith may be going that way, but seems like Gene Haas and Tony Stewart have other plans potentially for the 10, and it's a great pickup for Trackhouse. And the second part of this story has got me very excited indeed, which we'll get to as well.
Yes, and that is because last Wednesday night, about 2 hours after our show ended, Trackhouse announced they've signed Shane van Gisbergen to development contract for 2024. They're putting together a program to give the 3-time Supercars champion the full NASCAR experience of racing at all levels and different types of tracks. He'll make appearances in the Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series. And personally, I'll allow it. That's all I'm saying. I'll allow it because he's not a permanent Cup driver. I'll allow he can move around. Plus, some additional stock car experience in late models and other races that will be announced at a later date. Now, Trackhouse believes this development program will allow SVG to learn, adapt, and develop the skills necessary to eventually become a full-time Cup driver. That's good. He's using the system just as it was meant to be used. But still, it's bugging me. It's all in a year. Now, with Trackhouse showing commitment to Zane Smith as a potential star Cup driver in the future and continuing to build the team around Ross Chastain, who will get the Busch Light sponsorship next year, of course, this leaves some wondering about the future of Daniel Suarez. Now, since Chastain has joined Trackhouse, he's outperformed Suarez, who missed the playoffs this year. Looking at Chastain and Smith being locked down on multi-year agreements, plus the potential of SVG coming to Cup full-time as soon as 2025, with only plans to field 3 full-time Cup cars starting this year, that year, sorry. This is going to complicate things for the driver of the number 9 Chevrolet, the graphic courtesy there of Trackhouse, because, Matt, could Daniel Suarez be on the hot seat in 2024 with his Trackhouse future in jeopardy if he doesn't step up to the mark?
Well, it looks likely, doesn't it? I mean, Ross Chastain has got a seat with that team for life for what he did with them last year. And obviously bringing in the big sponsor, as we talked about a few months ago when it was announced that he's got Busch Beer coming with him. Zane Smith, as we've mentioned, coming to that team as the young kid coming through. They're going to, put some support and some bits and pieces around Zane and give him the shot. Van Gisbergen, of course, as you mentioned, is going to be kind of the floating driver next year around everything. He won't be running for any championships, but he'll certainly be driving a lot of cars, and that's exactly what he wants to do, is just drive. So very much looking forward to, as we mentioned multiple times, to see what SVG can do next year. What happens to Suarez then? Who knows? He's got that win last year at Sonoma and got himself into the playoffs. This year, he's just kind of been a little bit missing at times compared to Chastain, who's also, as we've talked about a little bit throughout the season, had a bit of a summer off as such, but he's come back a little bit stronger in these playoffs. But yeah, Suarez could be the man on the outside looking in once the musical chairs of Trackhouse stop. I guess we'll know that answer probably about this sort of time next year. That's going to be a long developing one. Matt Fiorin says Suarez seemingly always on the hot seat. Unfortunately, he needs to get back in victory lane next year and multiple times.
Oh, hello. Sorry, Matt White just disconnected there for a second. Is he coming back in? Hello, Matt. Hello. You just disconnected.
Yeah, that win for Suarez at Sonoma seems like a very, very long time ago, and he does need to get back into the winning ways that his teammate in Chastain was. And of course, Shane was in that one drive at Chicago and then got a top 10 at Indianapolis as well. So had that running with Bowman a couple of weeks ago. Darlington, it's just not been going Suarez's way. I feel like he's one of those guys that's just kind of wishing to the end of the season, really, get a bit of a reset over the winter and come back and try and win a couple of races next year and keep himself in that seat. And if not, put himself in the shop window for everybody else. Adam, I know he's on the SVG bandwagon, has been for a long time. He's looking forward to seeing how Shane goes next year. It'll be awesome. And Matt also saying Zane Smith is big time. Matt knows well. I don't say these things lightly. The guy reminds me of a young Jeff Gordon. He's going to win a lot of races, and he has been doing that in the truck series for the last few years. So excited to see another young kid coming through who's going to excite the Cup Series once he gets his 2 feet in the door.
Adding to the name then for the list to talk about next year in the commentaries. Okay. This one was a very big surprise and certainly is a hot topic as well because it has been a very surprising silly season for IndyCar already. And in a surprise silly season announcement, INDY NXT driver Kyffin Simpson is being promoted to a full-time seat in the NTT IndyCar Series in 2024. Now, Simpson will join Chip Ganassi Racing, who is expanding to a 5-car team next season. The Ganassi development driver joins an already confirmed lineup of Scott Dixon, Linus Lundqvist, Marcus Armstrong, and with Alex Palou expected to continue with the team. Pretty much already had that confirmed, haven't we? We're just waiting on the dotted line for more information. Now, in 2021, Simpson won the Formula Regional Americas Championship as well. And during his 2 years of INDY NXT competition, Simpson finished 9th and 10th in points, only scoring 2 podiums in 2 years. A graphic courtesy there of Chip Ganassi Racing. Kobe's back in with us as well. Is Kyffin Simpson ready for this big promotion, or do you think another year of INDY NXT would have been beneficial?
You said it, Josh. This was a massive shocker when we got the news the other day that Kyffin Simpson will be going to the NTT IndyCar Series full time next year. It was like something that came straight out of left field, something you didn't even think was gonna happen. Out of all the Indy Next drivers, he was one of the last drivers I would have thought that would have moved up full time next year. And I think it's also leads to an interesting situation with Chip Ganassi Racing. Run a 4-car operation. Ganassi's as strong as it's ever been, but sometimes when they keep adding more cars, sometimes it'll hurt the overall performance of the team. I wonder if adding a 5th full-time entry is going to take away some of the strength we've seen from Chip Ganassi Racing, especially from that number 10 Alex Palou and the number 9 Scott Dixon. So that remains to be seen. I remember last time Chip Ganassi Racing expanded to this many cars, it ended up not really going well. They lost some performance, so they end up downsizing to get that performance back. So I think that's an angle we're going to have to keep an eye on throughout the 2024 season. But in regards to Kyffin Simpson, I was really surprised to see this. I really think he could have used a 3rd full-time season in the Indy Next Championship to continue to build his skills and make sure he's as ready as he can be in IndyCar. And Kyffin had those two podiums, which is absolutely great. But he wasn't like the Christian Rasmussens or the Fosses of the world who were up there, battling for the win on a weekly basis and scoring podium after podium. Kyffin, he really, for most of the time, he really just like ran mid-pack and all of that. He was towards the front sometimes, but I really feel like Kyffin Simpson could have used another year of education in the Indy NXT Series. So I'm not really sure how his rookie season is going to go in IndyCar.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how young Kyffin gets on. As you mentioned, Kobe, he's been kind of that 5th to 11th place kind of running order. I'd like to see an average running position. I'm sure there's a stat somewhere for guys, but there's people that finished ahead of him in the championship that are certainly deserving of a seat. Hunter McElroy springs to mind, Louis Foster, as you mentioned, and of course Rasmussen, the champion. Is this a move by Chip? Oh, he's been under the Chip Ganassi banner for a little while. Is this a move by Chip to get him in there before someone else poaches him and puts them in their car before Chip gets the chance, potentially? Is this an addition because he knows that one of his other drivers, Alex Palou, or maybe even Scott Dixon hanging his helmet up and retiring, is going to be going away over the next couple of years? Get him in there and then shuffle the deck again and go back to a 4-car effort. I feel like that may be some part of it. There's obviously some backing behind him. He hasn't been winning races, as you say, but he has done some sports car stuff this year and has, I think, from memory, I'll have to check this in the EPI spreadsheet, but I'm sure he got a win earlier in the season in the European Le Mans series. So he has race winning pedigree, but I know another season in Indy NXT where we expect a lot of shuffling to happen again for next season. He could have been one of the favourites down there. Would have liked to have seen Nolan Siegel get a shot as well up in IndyCar, maybe ahead of Kyffin, but Chip knows what he's doing. Won the championship at Canter with one of his drivers this year. So we'll have to see how this goes. If it was me, I would have liked to have seen him do another year and battle for the championship in Indy NXT in 24.
I know IndyCar has now ended, but it's the perfect time to watch every single race of Indy NXT as well, a series that I highly recommend. Some great racing and great to see stars of the future, not only for IndyCar, but as they do end up around the world as well. Now, next up, it's Matt White with our latest from Grid EPI's update.
Thank you, Josh. Busy weekend again for the Grid Endurance Performance Index, our sports car ranking of all the drivers from around the world. Let's bring you the results from last weekend. We'll start in Japan, where the Grand Prix is this weekend. More about that, I'm sure, when we get to Hots and Knots in a little while. But the latest round of Super GT in action at Sugo at the weekend, and Tomoki Najiri and Toshiki Ayu won the race overall, and in GT 500, Hiroki Yoshida and Konta Kawai winning in the 300 class. GT World Challenge Europe finished its sprint competition at the weekend. Raffaele Marciello and Timo Bogoslawski winning race 1, and Charles Weerts and Dries van Voor winning race 2. We had a 24-hour race at the Circuit de Catalunya Barcelona at the weekend, won by Porsche. Julian Andlauer, Gregory Gilbert, Simon Tierman and Lauren Hugron getting the victory. And the big sports car race at the weekend was at the Big House, Indianapolis, on the road course for IMSA, and a 1-2 for Porsche. Nick Tandy and Matthew Jaminet getting the victory in GTP and overall. Stephen Thomas and Mikkel Jensen winning in LMP2. Anthony Mantella and Wayne Boyd winning LMP3. In GTD Pro, it was a win for Mercedes for Daniel Jorkendala and Jules Gounon, and another Mercedes team also winning the race in GTD, Russell Ward and Phil Ellis. So we're starting to get towards the end of the championship now for the Grid Endurance Performance Index. Here is how the points look after the weekend that was, and Brendan Hartley is still on top of the score. But as you can see down to Kamui Kobayashi, basically half a point in it between 5 guys. It's going to come down to, because Antonio Garcia and Jordan Taylor did not win in GTD Pro for Corvette, they are 8th and 9th, as you can see there on the standings. Because they did not win that race and then would have had to go on and win at Petit Le Mans in a couple of weeks' time to have a chance of winning the EPI, they cannot win it. It's going to be down to the 2 Toyotas at Bahrain in the World Endurance Championship finale in a couple of weeks' time to see who ends up winning the championship. It's going to be between Brendan Hartley and Kamui Kobayashi. We'll keep abreast of how that goes and obviously keep you updated on the results of it. When we get there, there is the top 50 as it stands. There's a lot of moving and shaking going around with that busy weekend that was, especially with the IMSA guys in action. Another busy weekend coming this weekend, the latest round, the penultimate round of the Nürburgring Landstrecke Series on the Nordschleife. Staying in Germany, the DTM and ADAC GT Masters, I said staying in Germany, they're in Austria this weekend, they're at the Red Bull Ring. The latest round of the ELMS is at Spa, and it's the final round of the GT World Challenge Asia there at Sepang this weekend. Just quickly before we disappear off, congratulations to Madison Snow and their team for winning the GTD Championship. All they had to do was start the race, Brian Sellers and Madison Snow at Indianapolis, and of course they did, and they got on the podium to celebrate their championship. So their championship is done and dusted. They can have a free run at Petit Le Mans, which comes up in a couple of weeks. The final round of IMSA for 2023. Those races I mentioned coming up this week, we'll give you the winners and give you an updated score on the show next week. Now it's back to Kobe with the rest of the news.
Yeah, it's been quite an impressive season for that Paul Miller Racing team. Madison Snow, Brian Sellers to win the GTD Sprint Cup title there. And next time for some more motorsports news from around the world. The FIA World Endurance Championship has nominated 3 drivers to participate in the annual end-of-season test session at Bahrain in early November. Portland, Oregon's very own Josh Pearson, a regular in the United Autosports LMP2 program, will get the opportunity to test a Le Mans hypercar with Toyota Gazoo Racing. Nico Verone, a regular in the Corvette Racing LMGT AM lineup, will get an opportunity to test an LMP2 car with either WRT in a Europol competition or United Autosports. While Anton Dequin, who drives in the European Le Mans Series' LMP3 category, he's going to drive Corvette Racing's C8R, graphic courtesy of the WEC. Colic Racing will promote NASCAR Xfinity Series regular Daniel Hemrick back to the Cup Series in 2024. Hemrick will replace Justin Haley in the number 31 Chevrolet as a full-time driver next season. Hemrick previously only ran one full-time season in Cup back in 2019 with Richard Childress Racing when he ended up winning the Rookie of the Year. Later lost his ride to Tyler Reddick after a single season at the premier level. Hemrick spoke very positively about the culture at Colic and everything they've built over there because everyone wants it just as badly as he does. Now he'll get a second chance to race on Sundays in Cup. Photo courtesy of Colic Racing. And now some more Colic news. Short track racing star Lane Riggs will make his Xfinity debut with the team this weekend at Texas Motor Speedway. Riggs will also compete at Las Vegas and Martinsville in the number 11 Chevrolet. Remember, Daniel Hemrick moved over to the number 10 Chevy for the playoffs. We've seen the son of NASCAR veteran Scott Riggs make select starts in the Truck Series, which included a top 5 finish at IRP earlier this year with Spire Motorsports. Team president Chris Rice said he's been following Riggs' short track career, and he's been very impressed with everything he's accomplished so far. Graphic courtesy of Colic. And after making the 2023 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series playoffs together, Rackley WAR and Matt DiBenedetto will not finish the year with him driving the number 25 Chevrolet. DiBenedetto wasn't able to advance to the next round of the playoffs and got eliminated at Kansas. The next race on the Truck Series calendar is Talladega. DiBenedetto is the defending race winner of that event. Both team and driver have released the following statements after this news broke just the other day. Rackley WAR has reached in a decision to make a driver change for the number for its number 25 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series entry for the remaining 3 events of the 2023 race season, including Talladega Super Speedway, Homestead Miami Speedway, and Phoenix Raceway. The team, in its 3rd year as a full-time NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series team, sponsored by Rackley Roofing Company Incorporated and WAR Shocks, will release further details of the transaction once they are finalized. And Matt DiBenedetto, you see on the right, respondent said, "No words can express the disappointment I'm feeling right now, and also not been able to finish the season out. I really want to thank my fans for always being there for me. It means the world to me, and I'll always be there for you. Thank you, NASCAR and Craftsman, for such an awesome series that I love competing in with all my heart, working on 2024, and we'll update you all soon." So that statement right there from Matt DiBenedetto. And one last story. McLaren F1 signed Oscar Piastri to a multi-year contract extension until the end of the 2026 season. Now Piastri and Lando Norris are under contract for the next several years as McLaren continues to inch closer to the front of the grid on a more regular basis. Piastri said that stability is a huge advantage early in his F1 career, and racing at McLaren in papaya colors makes him feel at home. He added that he wants to be fighting at the front of the grid with this team and feels optimistic about the vision and foundation that's been laid out to get them there. Next, I'm going to turn over to Matt for everyone's favorite game, Pick a Winner.
Yes, pick a winner back for the weekend, and we'll start with a race that we may or may not see at the weekend. We've been talking about it at the top of the show. MotoGP at the Bud International Circuit in India for the Indian Oil MotoGP. Sprint race on Saturday, of course. First time any bikes have been there of any international status. It's going to be wide open. Or not, if the race doesn't happen. But we'll attempt to try and pick potentially someone to win the race. I guess I'll start. he did me well at Mazzano a couple of weeks ago, so I'll stick with Jorge Martin, as he's the only Ducati rider that's fit.
That's a good pick. I think I'm gonna go with the guy who's typically very dominant in these sprint races and overall in the Grand Prix as well. I'm gonna stick with Pecco Bagnaia.
I predict that this weekend will be fire. Couldn't resist. Yeah, this is going to be a really crazy one. If it actually goes ahead, the long back straight favours the Ducatis, but the start line, the short run standstill one, favours the KTMs. With Bagnaia injured, you've sort of got to look to Jorge Martin, haven't you? So it's going to be either Martin or Binder. Binder does well in the sprint, so for the sprint, I'm going Binder, and for the main Grand Prix, I'm going Jorge Martin. That's sort of my thinking. But this is the thing. We don't know what on earth is going to happen in this weekend. So, yeah, there's a lot to look forward to, and there's a lot of action to go on.
Yeah, absolutely. And more picker winners to come over the weekend on the social media with Formula One, Suzuka and NASCAR, of course, back this weekend as well for the next round of the playoffs. Adam is going with Pecco as well as Toby for the sprint race in MotoGP on Saturday. Josh, you're back. It's time for Hots and Knots. We've got give or take 20 minutes, and I'm sure we've got, I think we're going to have similar knots. So we'll go with your hot from the weekend, first of all, or hots.
My hot from the weekend was the brilliance of the Singapore Grand Prix. I think after what was it, 15 races that Red Bull have won in a row, but realistically it's been over a year of Red Bull dominance. They've only been defeated once in that time by George Russell at Sao Paulo. Yeah. So I think it was a nice, refreshing change for the first time, I think, since Bahrain last year that we actually had a proper competitive race. We had a great race in Australia only because of the red flag at the end, and that's why it changed matter. It was pretty much Max dominated, wasn't it? Whereas here in Singapore, Red Bull genuinely dropped the ball at a track that Max has only ever led 3 laps at. Antonio Giovinazzi has led more laps in the Singapore Grand Prix than Max Verstappen, which is a stat that Crofty stole off Will Buxton, and I actually took the time to research during practice too. So he led laps 16, 17, and 18 in 2018, did Max. So I think it was a great weekend. Carlos Sainz, I think, has now proved in my book that he is a worthy champion, because that Ferrari is a dog. It is not a good car. It's twitching. The front and rear suspension doesn't work. Leclerc can't handle it. Carlos couldn't for a lot of the year. But in Singapore, Leclerc top practice 1, and then from practice 2 onwards, Carlos took off with it. So Sainz really was the smooth operator in my book. He was fantastic. That 4-way battle with them all and the last 3, practically all race, breathtaking. I never enjoyed a race more than I did Singapore. It was a refreshing change. And it's not, let's get rid of Red Bull from the title. No. What we need is Red Bull to be everyone else at the same level of Red Bull. Then we'll have that every week. That's what we need. We need them all to be competitive, what the regulations are actually designed for. Whether or not the technical delegate regulation changes affected Red Bull because, they're not going to to flex the floors and flex the wings. They've got to be at certain heights, 40 millimeters above, to stop the sparking and all that ground effect stuff and, the propulsing. We'll see that in Japan, which is a very similar track to Singapore in terms of the fact that it's a couple of slow corners together before some fast opening ones down the back straight. So they're pretty much quite similar. So if the Red Bull struggles this weekend, we've got an interesting end to the year. But it was just a relief to say someone other than Max Verstappen wins. And as a friend of mine would point out as well, as she keeps sending me TikToks of the Dutch national anthem, very delighted that it was a Spanish national anthem and everyone conducting the Italian at the end of it. So yeah, Singapore definitely a hot for me. And personally as well, I thought one of the best broadcasts I've ever done and the team have ever done, because we were on air an hour for the pre-race show, did the race, and did an hour post-race show as well. I thought it went perfect. So I had a very good Sunday after a very miserable couple of weeks. We'll get on to Knots why in a minute.
Yes, I've got knots from Singapore, but I have got hots, and it was a great race. It didn't. It was a little bit drab at the beginning, but it did certainly kick off in the second half. And you're right, Carlos Sainz's drive. That's probably the best 2 weeks of Carlos Sainz's driving career he's had. Terrific performance at Monza. Didn't quite get the result he probably deserved, although he was on the podium, and then winning at the weekend. Carlando continues to be a thing. I just love that. It's just great. Good to see mates doing well. Other hots come from supercars at Sandown. Good to see Brock Feeney getting his first win in that race. Good to see the Sandown 500 back. Also, Adam agrees, Brock Feeney and Jamie Whincup winning the Sandown 500 and seeing the return to the supercar schedule. It was excellent. There was some really good racing on the support bill. Tour at GT86s was excellent. Ryan Wood in Super 2 confirming why he's been picked by WAU to go up into the main series next year. And look out for Callum Hedge from Porsches, another quick New Zealander coming through on the scene. Matthew Owen says, my hot has to be Carson Hocevar. Marvellous drive from the young man at Bristol on Saturday night. And all other hot was going to be from Bristol. I've not yet watched the race, but just Denny Hamlin saying all of them. I've bagged Denny this year for some of the stuff he's done, but that I thought was really, really cool and proper mic drop moment from Denny. So let's flip the coin and go knots, because I kind of feel like we've got a few of the same here, but you can lead off.
Big knot, I think, was there's a couple of number one, Danica Patrick. And that's going to surprise a lot of people with Danica. It's like, oh, you've put it for not, but Danica really annoyed me over the Sky F1 weekend, because it's quite clear that she's very experienced. She knows what she's talking about with driving, and I do rate Danica Patrick as an expert on IndyCar driving. She's won a race. She knows what she's talking about with that lot, and NASCAR to an extent. But in terms of Formula One, it's not good when she admits that, well, I don't know, because I've never driven a car, and I'm guessing, and you don't get your star pundit to guess. And I don't think Danica deserves to be on the Sky team when literally in the same shot you've got Bernie Collins, who I think this year has been such a revelation to the Sky team. And in putting her in the commentary box, bang right idea. I've said from day one, I've said it to you, Matt, in the past, the perfect commentary team is the shouty one, the ex-racer, and the strategist. On the Fox coverage, you had Mike Joy, Darryl Waltrip, and Larry McReynolds. That's what you need. Yeah, Larry, that's what you need on the broadcast team. Sky've got it, and I thought I really enjoyed listening back, despite the fact that Crofty mucked up. But we'll get onto that not in a second. So yeah, Danica needs to go. Crofty, Mike, I want to pull my hair out. His second win in Formula One, his first for Ferrari. Are you kidding me? I know it's a 2-hour Grand Prix, but I was standing in the commentary box. I couldn't remember it. I said, it's Forza Ferrari, it's Forza Carlos. He wins Singapore. His second win in Formula 1 for Ferrari. It's not that hard. And then I did get confused because Carlos said, Carlos said, this is my first smooth operation in Ferrari. And it is. The reason he said it's my first smooth operation, he's never said it before at Ferrari. And also, this is the first time he's actually dominated a weekend. Because you remember at Silverstone last year, it was all the Team Ordergate, and he never felt like he actually dominated. Here he has. So that's what he was feeling like. But Crofty, you don't make those errors. And it's just, I don't know. I felt like we had a great broadcast, and I think Sky just failed massively on theirs. And another up, I'd just say the F1 kids, great. They were great again. They need to be on permanent for kids. They're great.
One hot, or two hots actually, that I forgot from the hots. Liam Lawson.
Yes.
He needs to be in that car. They need to, if he doesn't get in one of the AlphaTauris, then the hot ticket might be that he goes and replaces Logan Sargent at Williams to go alongside Alex Albon next year.
Just Red Bull 3 then.
I'd take Liam over both Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo at the moment, because I know Daniel only had, a race and 2 practice sessions or whatever it was until he hurt himself at Zandvoort. That he wasn't really pulling up trees, and in comes this young kid who's got it all to prove after being dismissed or overlooked maybe twice already potentially for that seat, and he knocks Max Verstappen out in Q2, which was just great.
And then the only driver to overtake him as well on track this year.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. So that was super cool. And also Oscar Piastri's drive, I thought, during the Grand Prix, which no one seems to be talking about from way down the grid after being knocked out in Q1 to get points, was very good. Yeah, Crofty was one of my knots from the week, and that Carlos Sainz gaff was terrible.
Yeah.
It's not. I know it's like he's just been talking for 2 hours, much like you did, but you obviously had your notes and everything prepared right in front of you to know that was. I've watched 610 races this year. Crofty's watched what 13, 14.
Yeah.
Maybe he's obviously watched more, but commentated on some, and he couldn't remember one that happened just over 12 months ago. That's a bit of a poor show. You guys over there could have Rick Allen's listen to every week. It's all about perspective. Yes, I do agree with you, Matthew. But yeah, Crofty was a bit of a blunder. Other Singapore knots, how Max Verstappen can get away with things in qualifying.
That was ridiculous.
The Logan Sargent one, okay, yes, but everybody was stopped in the final corner, and we could have seen that Lance Stroll accident with more people involved when they've been catapulting over the back of stopped cars. That stuff needs to stop. And Fernando Alonso might be right, but we do need to go back to single qualifying, which was my favourite of all of the qualifying we've ever had. The pit lane one was just silly, and they could have overtaken. Well, you can't overtake in the pit lane. And then if the one with it was Yuki, wasn't it, that he blocked, if that had been the other way around, it would have been slam dunk. Permanent stewards need to be at every Grand Prix permanently, rather than the revolving door of stewards that come and go every race meeting. Another knot from my other knot is from Sandown, the Sandown 490, because they didn't get 500 kilometers in. I know what people, we talked about this before, about races running into prime time. Sandown Raceway has a 6 o'clock noise curfew because it is in a built-up residential area.
There you go.
And even the cars that finished on the podium were then towed back to the garage so that the engines weren't fired at 6:05. It's that bad. But they ran long after 2 safety car periods in the race, and it was a 15-minute delay to the start, granted, because there was a barrier repair that needed to be done after the Super 2 race. But we always have barrier repairs at Sandown. Every single meeting that happens there is a barrier repair, and a distance race cut short. Not the Indy 500 is 500, the Daytona 500 is 500, the Coke 600 is 600. The Monaco Grand Prix doesn't have a distance in the name. If you've got a distanced race, it needs to run to the full distance. It wouldn't have probably made any difference to the result, even though it was pretty nail-biting at the end. But if they do that kind of thing at Bathurst in 3 weeks' time, there'll be stuff being thrown on the racetrack from the patrons at the top of the hill. You can be sure.
Well, wine. Remember, only 3 lagers, and then you've got to start drinking wine, which is unlimited.
Wine, or throwing cucumbers on the racetrack, as we saw at Bristol at the weekend after Denny Hamlin's win. Good. Another absolute massive hot is that it's Bathurst next. Just the hottest thing of the year, and I can't wait. I think that's pretty much done for Hots and Knots, unless you've been
Dorna, but then again,
Dorna we talked about earlier on.
Thanks for the block, by the way, Dorna. I'm trying to think if there's one more, because something's still bugging me that we haven't talked about from Singapore. Oh, it's a hot. There we go. Rebecca Lee, who became the first ever female to start an F1 race. She's taken over as our new permanent starter. She did the F3s and F2s this year, but Singapore, I mentioned it in the commentary, Rebecca Lee is the first ever female to start a race, and she pressed the button for lights out. So brand new moment there. And she's permanent for the rest of the year. So that's a big hot for me, that we've got more diversity in the paddock. Still needs to be more, but great that for Rebecca Lee. And she definitely did it well, because usually the lights go out quite quickly and I stumble, but she gave us the perfect time to wait, and then the lights went out. So I like her on the start button. That's my hot. So bring on Bathurst, it says Adam as well. Can't agree with you more on that. So, taking a look at our upcoming schedule, Saturday, the Grid Live pre-race, that is at noon Eastern. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up, that's 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Texas Motor Speedway. if I'm here for that, I'll join you. But considering it's a very early start and plus touring cars, I might be sedated for some very much needed sleep. Monday, Grid Live Encore, a full recap of the Xfinity race at Texas and more. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for helping us reach the milestone of 730 subscribers. Now help us reach our new goal of 800 subscribers on the road to 1,000. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to get the notifications for all our videos and follow all of our social media platforms and visit gridranking.com. Take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. Join Colin, Mark, Michelle, Robin, David, and Matthew in investing each month in the Grid Network. And we encourage you to join the amazing group of people who keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can start expanding our coverage and sending our team out trackside to cover more races. The link to all of that is in the video description. And if you want to do a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, and invest as much as you want, and consider buying a specific on-air personality a cup of coffee, and they'll thank you on the air. You can also support us by donating during our live streams through the Super Chat function as well. For Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, I'm Joshua Birch. Thank you very much for watching. I'm glad to be back. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos, including Life on the Grid, where we interview folks from the motorsports industry. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.